promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Abuja, Nigeria. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. First, our top stories. Vote counting underway in Guinea following legislative and municipal elections.
There are very few voters. We also observed that there is an unsealed ballot box in the polling station where I voted.
Teachers' Union begins indefinite strike over adopted colleagues and pupils in Oyo State, southwest Nigeria. Over 57,000 Liberian students begin high-stakes regional WAS exams today.
You are required to pass mathematics and English on the essay. You will also be required to pass civics.
Senegal nominates former Armed Forces General Biram Job to head the ECOWAS Commission. Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
Many thanks for being with us. We begin in Guinea, where vote counting is ongoing after the legislative and municipal elections held on Sunday. The elections are expected to pave the way for the establishment of the country's parliament and the executive councils of Guinea's 375 urban and rural municipalities. While the government applauds the peaceful conduct of the ballot, describing it as a final step in the transition process, the opposition alleges widespread irregularities and low voter turnout. Christopher Teacher completes the story.
Nearly 7 million Guinean voters were called to the polls on Sunday to elect 145 members of parliament and councillors for the country's 375 municipalities. According to the General Directorate of Elections DGE, the dual elections was conducted without any major incident. However, Abdoulaye Robaude, leader of the Fondek party, disagreed with that assessment, alleging irregularities during the process.
There are very few voters. We also observed that there is an unsealed ballot box in the polling station where I voted. And that is an anomaly that is unacceptable. We cannot understand how voter cards are found here with pre-marked ballots in advance. That is not acceptable. Our delegates are being refused access to the polling stations, and the information coming back to us from the interior of the country is not clear enough regarding the clarity of the vote and the transparency of the vote.
According to several observers, the elections failed to attract significant voter participation. In many polling stations, turnout remained low throughout the day. This situation was criticized by Fayame Lemono, president of the Bloc Liberal Party.
What I see is not very encouraging because they aren't going to pull out figures for us like 99% participated in the vote, when we can clearly observe that there is, in fact, an emptiness.
For his part, Prime Minister Amadou Uriba welcomed the successful organization of the elections. He described the vote as an important milestone and said it marked the completion of the transition process underway in the country.
This is an extremely important step for the history of Guinea. The process of returning to constitutional order has been particularly laborious but rich in lessons. Today, we are at the end of the process.
The General Directorate of Elections says provisional results of the legislative and local elections are expected within the next 48 hours.
A report from Conakry correspondent Chano Alpha Ibrahim Al-Balde, presented by Christopher Waticho. Elsewhere in Liberia, more than 57,000 students are writing the 2026 West African Senior School Certificate Examination known as WAS. The high-stakes examination, which begins today, Monday, June 1, will determine university admission opportunities and graduation eligibilities. Educational stakeholders view the outcome as a critical indicator of Liberia's post-war progress in strengthening academic competitiveness within West Africa. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Ephraim Parker reports.
A total of 57,393 12th grade students from 1,126 senior high schools across the country have registered for the regional examination. The candidates include students from all 15 counties, along with 3 schools in neighboring Guinea that operate under the Liberian curriculum. Speaking ahead of the examination, Dalek Boto, head of WAEC Liberia office, urged the candidates to remain focused, disciplined, and avoid all forms of examination malpractice during the testing period.
Over the years, we have some students who have been attending institutions that offer technical and vocational subjects, but those students have never been given the opportunity to do the exam. So we have 12 additional subjects that will be done by these kids this year, 2026. The Ministry of Education has actually given approval for 30 new subjects to be included, and these subjects are mainly technical and vocational subjects. You are required to pass mathematics and English on the exam. You will also be required to pass civics.
Across several counties, schools and academic institutions have completed study classes, mock examinations, and revision exercises in recent weeks in an effort to improve students' preparedness and overall performance. In Liberia, the examination plays a critical role in determining whether students qualify for higher education opportunities both locally and internationally. The examination period is also expected to test the preparedness of schools, teachers, parents, and education authorities as thousands of students gather at examination centers nationwide under strict academic regulations. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Meanwhile, in Nigeria, teachers are on strike across all public primary and secondary schools in Oyo State, the southwest region of the country. The industrial action, which takes effect from today, Monday, June 1, is in protest against the continuing captivity of teachers and pupils adopted in Ogbomosho on May 15 this year. The union says the prolonged detention of the victims has created fear and anxiety among teachers, discouraged parents from sending their children to school, and increased tension within affected communities. Veronique Njai tells us more.
In a statement, the Oyo State Teachers Union says the strike is intended to draw government attention to the urgent need for intensified efforts to secure the safe release of the abductees without further delay. The union also confirms its support for the abducted teachers, pupils, and families, pledging to continue lawful engagement with government authorities until the victims regain their freedom. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has ordered the recruitment of 1,000 forest guards as part of efforts to strengthen security operations and facilitate the release of the kidnapped victims. On Sunday, a federal government delegation visited Ogbomosho to meet with community leaders and the families of those abducted from Community Grammar School, Baptist Nursery and Primary School, and LA Primary School. The delegation was led by the President's Chief of Staff, Femi Bajabiamila, alongside the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu. The Minister of Defense, Christopher Musa, the Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Disu, the Minister of Power, Joseph Tekbi, and Presidential Advisor on Media and Public Communications, Sunday Dare.
Veronique Njai with that report. Still in Nigeria, law enforcement agencies have made a major cross-border seizure of illicit drugs. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency says it uncovered illicit drugs concealed inside imported water purifier machines and intercepted military-grade ammunition during separate operations across the country. The agency notes that the strategic seizures are part of intensified ongoing efforts to disrupt transnational drug trafficking networks and related criminal syndicates. WDR's correspondent Yechenu Saseti reports.
In a statement signed by its Director of Media and Advocacy, Femi Babafemi, the NDLEA says its operatives recovered consignments of ketamine and MDMA, commonly known as ecstasy, concealed in water purifier machines shipped from the Netherlands to Lagos. According to the agency, the illicit drugs were intercepted at a courier facility in Lagos during routine checks. In Kaduna State, NDLEA operatives arrested 3 suspects following the recovery of more than 1,000 kilograms of skunk from a residence in the Goningora area. The agency also disclosed that officers on patrol along the Abuja-Kaduna highway intercepted a suspect allegedly transporting 380 rounds of military-grade ammunition to Katsina State. Meanwhile, separate operations in Niger and Enugu State led to the seizure of hundreds of kilograms of skunk, as well as thousands of tablets of tramadol and other controlled substances. The NDLEA says suspects arrested in connection with the seizures are assisting ongoing investigations. The agency added that it has intensified its war against drug abuse campaign through sensitization programs in schools, places of worship, workplaces, and communities across the country. For WADR, Yechenu Sasetu in Abuja.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
And now Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye has nominated General Biram Diop for the chairmanship of the ECOWAS Commission. General Diop, who served as the Minister of the Armed Forces in the outgoing government, will have his nomination submitted for approval at the upcoming ECOWAS Summit of Heads of State and Government scheduled for July. If he succeeds, he will replace Dr. Omar Ali Touré, whose term expires this year. Usma Omar gives the details.
For the 2026 to 2030 term, Senegal is expected to assume the presidency of the ECOWAS Commission following a decision taken last year at the Summit of Heads of State and Government of the West African Regional Bloc. For that position, Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye has selected General Biram Diop, who served as Minister of the Armed Forces in the outgoing government. The announcement was made on Sunday in a statement issued by Senegal's Ministry of African Integration and Foreign Affairs. According to Senegalese authorities, General Diop possesses the ideal profile to lead the executive arm of ECOWAS, particularly at a time when the region is facing multiple security, political, and institutional challenges. Trained Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces, former Chief Military Advisor to the President of the Republic, and former Chief of Staff to the Air Force, General Diop also brings extensive international experience gained at the United Nations, where he served as a military advisor to the UN Secretary General on peacekeeping operations. Authorities in Dakar have also highlighted his expertise in security sector reform, his research work, and his commitment to the training of senior African leaders. General Biram Diop's candidacy will be submitted for approval at the next ECOWAS Summit of Heads of State and Government scheduled for July.
Usma Umar with those details. In neighboring Gambia, the government is raising alarm over the safety of its citizens living abroad. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation and Gambians Abroad has expressed deep concern about recent xenophobic tensions involving foreign nationals in South Africa, urging Gambians living there to remain highly vigilant. In a statement issued on Sunday, the ministry said it is closely monitoring the situation through its mission in Pretoria and it's actively engaging South African authorities. WDR's Sandona Mendy reports.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs says it is following developments in South Africa amid reports of tensions and incidents involving foreign nationals. According to the ministry, the Gambian mission in Pretoria remains in close contact with South African authorities and community representatives to ensure the safety and welfare of Gambian citizens residing in the country. The statement noted that the South African government has publicly condemned the xenophobic violence and reaffirmed its commitment to protecting all residents under the Constitution and the rule of law, regardless of nationality. As a precaution, Gambians living in South Africa have been advised to remain calm and vigilant, avoid areas affected by protest or public disturbances, keep their identification and travel documents readily accessible, and maintain regular communication with family members and community networks. The ministry also urged Gambian nationals to stay in contact with the Gambian mission in Pretoria for updates and any necessary consular assistance. Officials say the mission will continue to assess the evolving situation and provide support where required, adding that further measures may be considered should circumstances warrant additional intervention. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sagnala Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal, and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Vote counting underway in Guinea following legislative and municipal elections. Teachers' Union begins indefinite strike over adopted colleagues and pupils in Oyo State, southwest Nigeria. Over 57,000 Liberian students begin the high-stakes regional WAS exams today. Senegal nominates former Armed Forces General Biram Diop to head ECOWAS Commission. Still ahead in the news, we have a press review, guest interview, and sports news. So please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Thank you for staying with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Now crossing over to the Central Sahel region, precisely Burkina Faso, the transitional government announces the creation of a new factory dedicated to the production of smart water meters. The facility, to be operated by the Burkinabe Industrial Company for hydraulic equipment, is intended to meet the expanding needs of the local water sector while drastically reducing the country's dependence on foreign imports. More edit reports.
Sokima, the Burkinabe Industrial Company for hydraulic equipment, is being established as a mixed economy enterprise with majority public ownership. The company aims to address the increasing needs of Burkina Faso's water sector. According to Burkinabe authorities, the main objective of Sokima is to strengthen the country's industrial sovereignty and reduce its reliance on imported equipment. The planned factory will serve as a national industrial complex specializing in the manufacturing and assembly of water meters, as well as hydraulic equipment and tools. The project will have a share capital of 1 billion CFA francs, with 70% owned by the Burkinabe government and 30% by private investors. Beyond producing equipment to meet domestic demand, the project is expected to facilitate technology and skills transfer, create skilled jobs, and encourage the development of a local industrial ecosystem in the hydraulic sector. In recent years, Burkina Faso has faced major challenges related to the supply, maintenance, and modernization of its water infrastructure. This island nation must also respond to the growing demand for water meters, hydraulic equipment, and maintenance tools, most of which are currently imported. For example, the National Office for Water and Sanitation imports approximately 130,000 water meters every year.
In more edit reporting there. Meanwhile, the Mauritanian Coast Guard says it intercepted 223 would-be illegal migrants as part of the surveillance and rescue missions in waters under national sovereignty. The people arrested, including women and minors, are from Senegal, the Gambia, Guinea, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, and Cote d'Ivoire. The migrants were taken care of in accordance with the legal and humanitarian procedures in force. The Mauritanian coast is experiencing a resurgence in operations to apprehend irregular migrants who are leaving mainly from sub-Saharan African countries heading towards the European coast.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Now, let's return to Abuja, Nigeria for the press review with Yeche Nusasetu.
Let's begin with Punch. Oyo abduction. Nigerian Union of Teachers strike begins as President Bola Tinubu approves recruitment of 1,000 forest guards in Oyo State. Federal Workers Forum threaten nationwide strike over rising insecurity in unresolved wage issues. The forum has called out Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress for not rising to the occasion. United States commits $3.5 million to document and report religious freedom abuses in Nigeria. And now Vanguard, fresh Ebola threat. Lagos tightens surveillance and emergency preparedness measures at Murtala Mohammed International Airport. 2027 elections. Governors face fierce battles to retain seats or produce successors. Now Guardian, Lagos tops list of 33 states to expect severe flooding in 2026. And lastly, the Nigerian Tribune, 2027. Suspense over Goodluck Jonathan's participation continues as the former president keeps mum. Inspector General of Police Olatunji Dusu cautions against indiscriminate recording and circulation of police-related videos for content creation. And that's it on Press Review. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks to Yechenusa Setu for the press review from Abuja.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, Guinea remains a focus, and this time, civil societies in the country are reacting to the legislative and municipal elections held on Sunday. The CSO deployed election observers across the country to monitor the electoral process. According to the Union of Citizens for the Emergence of Guinea, the elections unfolded generally peacefully, but with some irregularities. Our guest is Amadou Barry, president of the organization.
Thank you very much. Our organization has already been accredited to conduct election observation throughout Guinea. We have also established a headquarters for receiving, centralizing, and analyzing information gathered in the field. So far, our assessment is that the voting took place in a relatively calm environment in the areas covered by our mission. No major incidents were observed. However, we did notice a low voter turnout 2 hours before the end of the polls. They did extend the closing time to 7:30 p.m. But what we can tell you overall, and this is a very general observation, is that the population did not turn out in large numbers to vote. Also, there was a significant shortage of equipment.
You mentioned a shortage of equipment in some polling stations. What explanations have been provided by the teams from the Director General of Elections who are on the ground?
We don't have that information at the moment. We don't have an explanation for that. We are following the process and will do so after the data analysis, after the data centralization and all the feedback. We are currently working on it and will deliver the final version of what we have been able to do in the field, and you will have the detailed information.
And why do you think Guineans didn't turn out to vote in large numbers?
You know, we just came out of the Tabaski festival. So, during Tabaski, many Guineans travel to the interior of the country, not only to celebrate there, but it's also a time for other Guineans to come and see their relatives and spend quality time with them. We think that also played a role.
The campaign was marked by tensions and disagreements surrounding the electoral process. So, did you sense that on election day?
We don't feel that on the ground today, though, but we can say that perhaps this reluctancy also stems from that. Perhaps other people felt it wasn't worth their while to participate in these elections. They thought it was a rigged race from the start. We can say that even if there were no violence incidents, there was still a reluctancy among many people in this population, but not particularly so.
The opposition is denouncing certain irregularities. The DEC Front, for example, says it has observed unsealed ballot boxes. So what could explain this situation? Are you also encountering this kind of problem on the ground?
No, we haven't encountered that. In any case, our observers haven't reported any of the information we received to date. We haven't seen that. But we did find missing voting booths and some polling stations. We went to places where we found only one voting booth, not 3. So that was the only one we were using. Yes, so far, we haven't observed any violations of voters' rights.
Mr. Barry, what are your recommendations based on what you have observed on the ground?
Well, for the moment, what we can say to the authorities regarding the findings we have made is to continue working to reassure the population, to really work on inclusivity, and also to work on respecting the rights of all political parties, because that is what will bring credibility to the elections, and that is what will also contribute to the participation rate of citizens for the upcoming elections.
Amadou Barry is Vice President of the civil society organization Union of Citizens for the Emergence of Guinea. Now in sports, Senegal merely remembered the performance of Sadio Mane, who scored a crucial brace, but it was not enough to avoid defeat against the United States in a 3-2 encounter as part of preparation for the 2026 World Cup. Beyond the result, the Lions' offensive leader preferred to adopt a calm tone, believing that this match could serve as a turning point a few days before the clash against France. He said, and I quote, "There's no problem. We will have loved to win, but there's no issue. This match will allow us to know where we stand before our match against France. But that setting is that we will be ready before the start of the competition," Mane said. And in Europe, Paris Saint-Germain held their nerve in a Kage Champions League final to retain the title by beating Arsenal 4-3 on penalties, as Saturday's nil-beaten showdown ended 1-1 draw after extra time, cementing the French side's status among Europe's more than greats. Arsenal defender Gabriel blasted his spot kick over Mavi Safono's crossbar at the Puskar Arena in Budapest. His miss confirming PSG as the first club to retain the trophy since Real Madrid completed their 3-year reign from 2016 to 2018. Long dismissed as glamorous underachievers, despite vast resources, the League One champions have now forged a dynasty under Luis Enrique, marrying attacking brilliance with resilience to establish themselves as the dominant force in European football. The outcome left Arsenal midfielder Declan Rice devastated but proud, as his side finished their European campaign without loss in a match, aside from the shootout defeat in the final. The French side were left to celebrate being European champions once again, with extra time substitute Lucas Birado's goal in the shootout proving to be the winner. And that's it in the world of sports. We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal, and online at wadr.org. Thank you for listening. Many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Joacino Capagomis for the technical support. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, including X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. I am Augustine Curley. Good afternoon.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County, and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Baft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to Newslink.